This episode is brought to you by Americas Rehab Campus. Get on the road to recovery with the best rehab in beautiful Arizona. Dial 1-833-272-7342. That's 1-833-ARC-REHAB.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to the ARCast.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the ARCast. My name is Buddha.
I'm Vance. And I'm Matt.
And I'm Michaela.
She's calling in today. She's out in Scottsdale, but we had to call in. You know, today is an amazing day, man, for plenty of different reasons. As you guys know, it is episode 50. It's our year anniversary. And with that, man, we wanted to go back to the beginning. The very first episode that we had was with somebody who's very special to ARC. He's been here for a while, and we were getting our feet wet at this time. Just thinking about the 50th episode, we wanted to give you a redemption.
And guess who you're related to?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. You know, and I'm very blessed that you're here. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, the biggest round of applause ever for Ray. Yeah. What up, dude?
What up, Buddha? Thank you.
Looking a little anxious over there.
Yeah.
Don't he? Get him a beach towel so he can wipe his forehead.
Hey, you got water. There's some peanuts right there, whatever. Get comfortable. We can even close the blinds if you need to, whatever, man. But
That's fine.
Nah, thank you for coming, brother. How's your day going so far?
Busy.
Busy? I can see it.
I love it.
Yeah, he's very busy.
Stay busy, man. Well, I don't know if you know this, but you are our most listened to episode.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That is great.
Hey, man. So, you know, your story was incredible. We've gotten a lot more comfortable, man. We wanted to come through and just hear your story all over again. And I know you had said that there was other things you wanted to go into. We didn't really have an opportunity to really dive deep. So
I'd love for everyone to know how you guys are related.
Oh, okay. So Ray, before, you know, we start the podcast, just to kind of let everybody know. So Ray, I call Ray my uncle, and he was related to me through marriage, but, you know, he lived technically right next door to my house for the longest time, man. I mean, we're talking family reunions.
That's when you were a kid, huh?
I was just a kid. I actually have home videos of it, man. Homeboy's dappered up, bro. He looks good in his suit and everything, man. Back then, I was a lot younger, you know, but...
Was Buddha an annoying little neighbor kid, always, you know, screwing with your stuff at the house, all that shit? Get off my porch, kid.
Always had to send him home and change his diaper
Yeah.
quite a bit.
He's like 7 wearing a diaper.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude, I know I was a pain in the ass growing up, you know, and we lost touch, everything that happened, you know, a part of Ray's story. But it was an amazing opportunity when we've talked about this before, Vance. God does amazing things, lines things up. And I remember looking on our roster sheet and I saw Ray. Just something in my heart told me to go speak to him, go talk to him. And that's pretty much it, man. The history after that.
That's awesome.
So what's going on, Ray? How are you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Amazing.
You're doing good? All right, well, let's go into it, man. Where are you from? Are you from Tucson?
I'm from Tucson, Arizona, born and raised.
Born and raised.
Yes, sir.
And what schools did you go to?
So schools, I mean, here in Tucson, I went to Monzo Elementary, Maxwell Junior High, and then I ended up at Tucson High for the last of my school years.
Tucson High is right down the street from the U of A, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I gotta flex. I'm not gonna say who it is, but I had somebody recently close to me talk about how Ray was so dreamy in high school. He was like the star athlete. Dude was always in shape. Yeah, man.
And it's a coincidence that we have Vance in here because when I grew up, Vance had just made it to the college and pro level. So everybody that played football on my side of town, because that's where Vance was from, we were all aspiring to be Vance Johnson. But I even played receiver because of Vance Johnson.
Wow. Thanks for that. Remember.
That's so cool, man.
By the way, Tucson High was my favorite high school, but unfortunately I had to go to Cholla.
Right?
So you Cholla Chargers, don't be mad at me.
Yeah, Tucson High is a very different school. It was like a
It is.
melting pot of so many different people throughout the city, just
Yeah.
in one spot. But no, that's cool. So you grew up on the west side
Yes, sir.
of Tucson, Arizona. Do you have any siblings?
I originally had 2 sisters, and one passed away while I was in prison, and I have 1 sister now.
So, you know, I knew you as a little kid, and you're already a grown man with your big ass car and your loud sound system. I remember that, you know, but I don't know a lot about your childhood growing up, you know. So you grew up in Jollyville, right?
Yes, grew up there, but the issue with that back then was I was raised by a single mother.
Okay.
So I didn't have a male figure to kind of guide me or at that time basically protect me, from some of the things that were going on in the neighborhood.
I know that you have a relationship, with your pops, but was this something did you always have that relationship? Was it like off and on, or was it just kind of like sporadic?
I saw him for the last time probably around the 3rd grade, and then I didn't see him again until high school when I actually made the newspaper one time for sports.
Wow.
Ooh,
And that's
not
when he
crime.
wanted to, right? Not crime. And he wanted to start coming to games and picking me up on weekends and stuff.
How'd that make you feel, Ray?
I guess at the time I felt good, but as I got older, kind of looking back, it was, how come you didn't come see me before? Why wait till something comes out in the newspaper so you can say that's my son?
Yeah.
So, kind of mixed feelings, but at the time, I thought it was great because I was getting all this stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting that attention too.
Right.
When we look at it from the other side too, I look at it as, we tend to, when we make mistakes, try to forget those. And maybe that's what he did for a while. And then here you show up in the paper and it brings that back up. And so maybe he really did want to create some sort of relationship at the time. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
You can think of it that way too. No sirs on this podcast.
So, all right. So were you in athletics your whole like academic time, like middle school, like the whole time you were in different types of sports?
So, like with the childhood, what happened was, like I said, there was a pedophile in our neighborhood, and he attacked probably every child probably around him.
Wow.
And one of my neighbors ended up dead, and he was Tucson's first unsolved murder. His name was Richard Leland, and he lived right behind me. And all us kids in the neighborhood kind of knew what happened, but nobody would say nothing,
Wow.
And then with the single parent and culture that I was raised in, it was hard to talk about those kind of topics to a parent. It was like a taboo subject, or we would get blamed or spanked, and so a lot of us kids in that neighborhood kind of grew up in fear, and I think that's what led me like to sports, because it was a way to mask some of the that bad event that happened. And I would think that in sports, if people see this, maybe they won't see what happened to me when I was a kid. By
Literally
looking
sharing
at
my
it.
testimony to everything come out of his mouth is exactly why I participated in sports just like you did.
Wow.
And I played harder and harder and tried, and I ended up with a lot of speed. By the time I got to high school, I ran a 4.340, which is almost at Vance Johnson's level. So I was really fast, really athletic.
That's slow.
Popularity.
Hey, shit.
and I fed off of that popularity. That was what would drive me.
Wow.
That's fast. A 4.35.
That's yeah, man. That's
That's
incredible.
quick.
He just reminded me, guess what I ran when I was in high school?
What was that?
4.3.
4.29, I thought.
Hey, I think after this podcast, we're going to go out there and race.
I know, bro.
You two got to race. We'll film it and put it on there.
Let's do it. Let's see who's faster, man.
Who can make it to their doors first?
Set up the GoPro.
Ray's going to win.
Well, he did get a new hip last year.
True.
Michaela said we got to get out the GoPro. It's ready in charge, Michaela.
There you go.
I remember a few years back, I had a buddy, J-Lo. And we remember we were talking about racing out in front of his sister's house.
Yeah.
And I was like, probably about 8 years ago, and he's just like, I'll smoke you in. I was like, I don't run anywhere. I play softball, I get a hit, I get a ghost runner, someone come and run for me. And we raced, and it was just like, I was hurting for like weeks after, I ain't running nowhere.
So that shit's funny, man. Yeah, we're gonna have to get that in. Make sure you guys check the Instagram for the Vance and Ray race, man. So, all right, so you got into sports, and like after high school, did you graduate from high school?
Yeah, I graduated when I was 17 years old, and I actually attempted to go to the Navy. I wanted to be a firefighter on an aircraft carrier.
Wow.
And I got to boot camp, but unfortunately, like I said, we'll get into the addiction later, but I got to the Phoenix Processing Center and I tested positive for cocaine.
Oh, dang.
What kind of grades did you get in school, Ray?
Probably like a 2.5, 2.8.
You probably didn't try like you didn't put much effort into the schoolwork. It was all about the sports.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I was probably a little smarter than I looked on paper,
Yeah.
but I just did not put the effort into
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
You literally are sharing my testimony because I used to cheat when I was in high school. And the only reason why they would give me a good grade so I can pass is because they knew I was going to get a scholarship possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did that like send you down kind of like a spiral because that was what you wanted to do, and then here it was being made that mistake, and then you gave it away. I don't want to say taken from you because you did it to yourself, right? We do that shit to ourselves. But did it kind of send you down a little bit of a rabbit hole?
It did, because I wasn't strong enough to just admit that I did it, and I tried to lie my way out of it, and that was not working with the government.
No.
And they held me up. I completed boot camp, and on the very last day before graduation, they stood me as they walked me out to watch my graduating class.
Oh my, that's messed up, dude.
And then they walked me out.
So your drug test came positive when you went in, and then you went and did full boot camp, and they knew your test was dirty, and then they did that to you.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you did to yourself, but they helped you.
Yes. In the process, they scheduled me for a polygraph. And there was an investigation, and I had to meet with a Navy official.
So you
a couple
tried
of
to beat
times.
the polygraph.
How old were you at that time?
Obviously failed.
I was 17 years old.
17 years old.
Yeah,
Man. So you didn't do any coke while you were in boot camp. It was before you went in.
it was before I went in.
And they polygraphed your ass, and you tried to beat that.
I tried to beat it. It came out inconclusive, and I was given an entry-level separation. They said I could try again 2 years later, but I did not.
That sucks.
God, way to kick you when you're down already.
Right.
Right.
Hey, look at all your friends who passed. Like, geez, man.
And here they're all smoking dope and everything in boot camp.
All high
Yeah.
walking down. Yeah, that's crazy.
You know, real quick, because back in the 40s and 50s, even if you used, they allowed you to be a part of the service.
Right, and I
got
thought
proof.
I thought I could lie my way through it, and I think that humiliation that I took at the very last day, watching that whole class go, kind of brought me home with a really, really bad attitude where I didn't really care after that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you say that because like World War II, Japanese were giving their fighter pilots methamphetamine so they would just fly into shit. Remember?
That's great.
Wow.
That's true.
The German army too, like they were doing, giving them methamphetamine pills, and
Wow.
so
Just
Yeah.
shoot it like crazy. Wow. Okay. So, like, were you involved in any like travesuras? Were you causing a lot of trouble back in high school, or was it not until you got a little bit older?
Probably in high school, we would skip school, drink. In that time was the 80s. So there was,
did you have an afro?
I did not.
Okay.
Kind of. I actually had hair then, but
Did you kick it at the squares at Tucson High? Was that still a thing?
always.
Yeah, West Up right there. That's the West Side Squares right there.
Yeah, but just alcohol and the cocaine, that was a big thing because of all the movies and all the glamorized that the TV does.
Yep.
And so it drew me into that bad element of alcohol, cocaine, parties,
And this is one thing that I didn't realize up until recently because we've had a conversation about this. But Jollyville around that time was actually really, really bad, right? Well, there was a lot of gang activity, a lot of that type of shit going around because I never saw that growing up. It was already fading out when I was growing up around there.
Yeah, there was assaults but it just became normal. So I guess at that time I didn't see it as that, but
Oh,
as I
really?
grew older, I kind of saw how we were living then. Yeah.
Okay.
And where's Jollyville? Is that like a section of Tucson?
It's a section of Tucson right off of like Grant and Silver Bell area, just
okay.
southeast of Grant and Silver Bell. So yeah, I mean, it's crazy because Mexican families, we all stay close to each other. So it's like his family lived at that same house, right? You guys were at that in the corner right there, that little lot. My grandmother, my aunt lives right next door. I mean, it's all like family. You all take care of each other type of thing.
Yeah.
So after high school, after the Navy, what were you doing? Were you working? Could you keep a job at this time?
Yeah, I kept jobs. I was kind of a weekend warrior. I would work through Friday, and from Friday night on till Sunday night, I was MIA, drinking, bars, just running amok. And then it got to the point where I started losing my jobs. I'd work there for a while, start missing Mondays, and then it progressed, and then I'd disappear for a week, and I'd be fired. Yeah.
And you worked in behavioral health even back then, didn't you?
Yes, even back then, I was a case manager for a home health agency. Yeah,
Okay.
and I worked in several hospitals as well too, as a patient care tech.
Yeah, and when did you? I see that thing around your neck. When did you become a Steelers fan? I always want to ask you that because I know you are a ride or die.
So back in high school, I played wide receiver, corner, and I was a Steelers fan because of Lynn Swann.
Okay.
Back in that day, Lynn Swann was just,
He's a beast.
amazing with his
I remember
hands.
him,
And
All right. I just wonder if it's
So-
bandwagon or what,
no,
Ray.
no bandwagon.
No bandwagon.
You should be a Broncos fan.
Do you ever see any advances? Any of you see him live when he was with the Broncos?
Live?
Like professional games?
No, I didn't go to any professional
like
games.
that.
We couldn't afford professional games.
It was a lot cheaper back then.
Yeah, a lot cheaper back then.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right. So at this time, Unc, when you were, coming up, you're working, you're trying to keep a job. Were you married at the time? Were you single? I know you said you were going at the bars or whatever, but that don't really.
At that time, I had my son. I was with his mother, but it was a very dysfunctional relationship.
Okay.
And I've always chose to work in medical field or substance abuse or mental health field because it was just a thing that I like to do, was to help people and do stuff for people, but I didn't know how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Even back then, yeah, it
Even
makes
back
sense.
then.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so when did you start, dabbling with things that started getting harder? Because I know you said you did the cocaine, you were drinking and stuff. I know with your story that you started going into things that were a little bit harder, which is what caused a lot of things that were going on. When did that happen for you?
So I believe that happened as my son got older and to the age of when the things that were happening to us as children in the neighborhood. And as he grew older almost to the age of 9, I just started becoming extremely paranoid all the time. And the more drugs I did, the more paranoia. Like I said before, I was examined by a forensic psychiatrist who said I was basically projecting my identity on him for some reason. And my hallucinations were becoming real. Even though nothing was happening to him, in my head, I was thinking that he was going to be assaulted or something. So I had to do more drugs to stay awake to protect him.
Wow.
Okay.
And I started running around with guns and not wanting to sleep and, just staying up all night, vigilant. And like I said, I was...
That just creates more of a hallucinate type of environment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, being awake for weeks at a time, I've been there.
Yeah.
Not a fun place to be. You start off with like seeing little shadows and shadow people, and then pretty soon it's a shadow army.
Wow.
And you're like, is this real?
Right.
Wow.
Oh, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real.
Like that
It's
movie
real.
Ghost. That's what it reminds me
Yeah,
of.
it's when sleep deprivation. I mean, that's a big one. Like when you don't get enough sleep, it definitely tears your mind up. And your mind just starts going sideways.
Right. And I would like things that, I placed in one part of my house, it would end up in another. And I felt that somebody was in there and somebody was coming to get us, but nobody was there.
And when you're using, are you aware that your brain is starting to like deteriorate like that? Like you're starting to have, because I know the addiction keeps you using, right? But are you aware at least that these changes are happening, or is it kind of like you can't even really get a grasp on what's going on with you?
I couldn't get a grasp. Drug-induced psychosis, you're basically awake and you're hallucinating, but to you in your mind, that's really happening. And that's what's so scary about it.
Wow.
It's really occurring at that time. And I started getting increasingly paranoid and, like I said, running around with guns. And
That's a normal happening for meth users, long-term meth users.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So how old were you the night that everything went down?
so I was 31 years old. And like I said, I was in a really bad place in my head. I was hallucinating really bad. Somebody had broken into my house earlier that week. So I had one of my windows boarded, and I was certain they were coming back that night to rob me or hurt me or my son. Like I said, I was just sitting there terrified with a gun in my hand, and the noise I heard was, it was actually a baby. Somebody was coming to care for my son that night that was in the kitchen, and in my mind there was nobody in my house. And when I heard that noise, I just recklessly fired a weapon in my house.
Wow.
All 17 rounds. Yeah.
Man.
17 rounds.
17 rounds. And for one, the fact that knowing who you are today, brother, like, and we'll get into this even deeper, like extremely proud of you, man. Because I mean, you've definitely are a person who has taken the cards that you were dealt, and you've handled them like a man, and you've done everything that you've needed to do. And I think it's very everyone has a different story, but the fact that you can open up and speak about some of these things even though it's hard, man, like I'm very grateful because your story is extremely powerful. And I mean, I've seen you change people's lives, dude, like on a daily basis, pretty much.
Every day.
Yeah, dude. So
Yep, every day.
so,
And that's why I tell everybody, everything you've ever gone through in your life, if you didn't go through it, what will be your testimony?
Exactly.
Right.
So this is the very purpose that you had to go through everything you went through so that you could save lives.
Thank you.
It's a testament to his character, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the things you've been through, Ray, and the amount of empathy you have towards people still is amazing, right? Like, he always tries to put other people first and give other people credit instead of taking credit for what he's done, because nobody's done anything besides him.
Almost to a fault. Like I and I love you. I can say this, but I feel like, you rarely do for Ray. You're always doing for other people, but it's like, you're always doing, you're always taking care of people. But
He's always giving other people the credit for what he's done instead of, taking the credit that he has taken his life and done a 180 and made the best possible case scenario for himself and the people around him. And it's all him. It's nobody else.
Matt, you just took the words out of my heart, man, because I was thinking, ever since I met him, he's so humble with everybody he's ever talked to.
Too humble. It's like, stand up, Ray.
Yeah.
Punch him in the mouth. Come on.
Yeah, and I get asked the question, how do you make peace with what you've done? Committing such a heinous crime, and it's the most heinous crime known to our population, right? First degree murder charge. And I think so. I guess the only way to make peace with those demons now is to just help. There's a lot of young people that come into this program. The population that we deal with, legal problems, severe drug problems, gang problems. And I just use everything that happened before as a tool to try to teach somebody not to become the monster that I became at that time. If I could change the trajectory
Or
of
that-
just one person,
Yeah. Or that the fact that, hey, all these things can happen, and yet this is where I'm at today.
Yeah.
I'm not that monster I used to be, right? And I haven't been that monster for this many years, long time, right? Like, if you met Ray and he didn't tell you about his backstory, you'd never think that.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the testimony of who you are, Ray, too, with the number of clients I encounter and every single one that will single out who made a difference in their time at the ARC. It's you every single time, of who truly, truly makes an impact. And I think that's huge, of what you went through to where you are now, and how you're able to really, truly relate to the people that come through our doors, and really make them feel known, and gives them just something to relate or hold on to or inspire them.
Because most people that have gone through what Ray has gone through, like on any kind of level, that's their excuse to continue to act like a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
right.
It's true.
Like, and myself included, I've had those things happen. It's like, sometimes I sit there and I think it's just easier for me to be a piece of shit than it is to be a better person, right? Which is my head lying to me. I mean, it's our heads lie to us and they tell us all kinds of untruths. But I mean, it's just proof that in most people's cases too, they just use that as that crutch and go, I'm never going to be able to amount to anything. Nobody's ever going to want me around. Nobody's ever going to think I can do good. So guess what? I'm just going to continue to do this and be this way. And then their whole life just turns into 75, 85 years of complete tornadoes through their life, right? Instead of, hey, I made a couple bad decisions. I paid some severe consequences for them. And I don't hold that for anything. I just continue to be the best person I can be today. And that's what Ray does.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just, it is great to see. And especially when you're coming through here and you get to hear that and you're on the other side, when you're trying to get clean, trying to figure out a way to live. And you're like, hey, this dude has his shit together. I mean, we all still have problems and deal with them and stuff. But I mean, for the most part, it's like, hey, I don't have to continue to go down this road.
Yeah.
And here's living proof of it. And when he shares his testimony and he shares his story, it gives those people hope. And that's what they look for.
Yeah.
And that's why they gravitate towards Ray.
That's real. Going off of what you said, Matt, and off of what you said, that they don't have to be that monster. It's crazy to even hear you say that, because I feel like that right there in itself is a lie. In the sense of, like, when the person I was talking to earlier said you were dreamy, right? Just to give you an example.
What was his name?
His name was Earl. We're not getting into that right now. But Earl told me that that you were always had the kindest, most sweetest heart. And I see that, and it's amazing to me, like, to think that because of a drug-induced psychosis, which is like the highest level of the addiction lying to you, that voice lying to you, right? You wake up. I don't even know. Do you remember being detained that day, or did you just wake up in a cell and like, what the hell happened to me? Like, because I know that when you're clear-headed, that's not Ray, but that voice is enough to make you lie to yourself and make you feel like you are a piece of shit or whatever, when that could be, this is the furthest thing from the truth.
So actually, when I got to the county jail, I was at the hospital at first, and obnoxious amounts of levels in my blood. And by the time I got to the jail, they allowed me one phone call, and I called home, and I didn't know what had happened. I really did not know what I was charged with. And I asked my mom, why am I here? And she said, you killed somebody. So that's what I woke up to that day.
And what did that feel like when you heard that?
I was crushed because, like Buddha says, that's never been my character. And I don't even think it was, it's not just the drugs. When I'll explain later, when I came here as a client, I found out that the trauma that I suffered as a child is what led to all that acting out and behavior and use and trying to mask stuff that had happened. But I was broken, for me to be responsible for somebody's life. Just at that time, it just sucked the life out of me.
God, I can only imagine, man. Mm. And I remember too, I don't know if I said this on the last episode, but I remember, just being a kid. This was what year was this?
This was in 2000.
That was in 2000 when that happened?
Yeah.
So, I'm 12 years old at this time, still kind of.
Still in a diaper?
Yeah, still in a diaper, pain in the ass kid. And, you see so many people that just say things, it's like you've said this before, there's the truth, there's your side, and then there's the truth, right? So it's like all you can go off of are the things that people are saying, Ray did this, Ray did that. Everyone's got a judgmental, everyone doesn't want to be judged, right? But the moment that shoe is on the other foot, they're over there judging the hell out of everybody, what they're doing or whatever. And that to me, I could just only imagine how you felt, bro. Yeah. Like,
And I never pointed a firearm directly at someone. What I heard was a noise in my house that night, and I shot at a wall. And the bullet went through the drywall and struck my friend. Man.
So you're 31 years old. You're in prison. You're sober, Well, when you first got there, I'm talking about the
good
first
drugs in prison. What are you talking about, Buddha?
I'm talking about when you first, when you first arrived there. Were you here? Did they put you here in Arizona?
Yeah. So it took 2 years to process, and by the time I finally got to prison, my first prison stay was here in Tucson, Arizona. Actually. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to get too, you say whatever you need to say, but how was it? How was that change of an environment? Like, how long did it take you to get accustomed to that lifestyle of being there?
Well, you had to become a monster to survive, right?
Pretty much.
Like,
how long were you going to be in prison for?
I was going to be in prison for 16 years. When you're not used to that, and my mom did the best trying to spoil us and shelter us and whatnot, and I think she did a great job. So when you're taken from that kind of home and what you're used to, and you're put on a high level security because of my crime, I was placed on a high level security yard where you're just surrounded by
other monsters.
Right. And you better learn to adapt that day, or you're just not going to make it, So it was a culture shock. I had to get used to, violence every day, racism, just all kinds of prison politics, and you either get in line or you just don't have a very good time in there.
Literally just throwing you in with the wolves. Did you have anyone take you under your wing?
Nope.
No.
Did you have suicidal thoughts back then when you were in jail?
Oh yeah. I had them a lot. When you're facing double digits, that seems like a life sentence.
Right.
And, some of the days are really, really bad in there, lockdowns. You get, no toilet paper, no food till whenever they bring it to you. And yeah, you get real depressed, You're isolated and you're just in your head. And that depression and anxiety and stress and just all kinds of negativity just starts to descend,
Was there any good in there? Anything that you take now, like an experience that you feel helped you?
I would say resilience, an ability to adapt to surroundings very quickly, and believe it or not, faith in a higher power, what I call God.
Yeah.
And also, I think I gained an ability I learned how to love another human being unconditionally without judgment.
And so why did they move? Because I know you went to like Colorado, you went to different places. Why do they do that?
Because they were overpopulated. There's no room. And they were just basically sending us out of state to warehouses, big gymnasiums that they put double bunks in. And like I said, there's a lot of tension in there because you're housed with 200 other people in a gym.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty bad. But it was mostly because just where they had room. That's why I was shipped out so much.
What year were you shipped? What year did you have to go to jail up in Colorado?
I'm not exactly the years. I spent some time in Tucson, and then we ended up getting shipped to Oklahoma. And then that contract ended, came back to Arizona, got shipped to Colorado, came back, got shipped to Indiana, and then came back. And yeah, it was in 16 years, I was on 11 different yards.
11 different yards. Wow.
Yeah. One good thing from prison too was that on my first yard, I got a job as a teacher's aide.
Oh yeah.
So I got to help just a lot of the younger ones get a GED, work on math skills, And so I mean, even in prison, my desire to help other people
Was still there.
Yeah.
Was there? Were you still able to smoke when you got locked up? Like, was there cigarettes still allowed? Because I know that changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago, Buddha. Shit.
Hey, bro.
I didn't smoke then either.
Oh, you did it?
No.
When did you start smoking? In prison?
In prison, yeah. My last 5 years, I worked as a mechanic and cigarettes. That's the last of my evils.
What do you fix in prison? What do they fix in prison?
So I got to work on I actually got certified as a mechanic in prison. I got to work on all the buses, the vans. They have whole fleets of vans for the transport vans. Yeah. Just maintaining all the vehicles in the prison system.
Is there a lot of room for people in there that want to better their education and themselves? Like, do they still allow you to get degrees and things like that?
If you mail order, like through the mail, a lot of the programs they just don't have the funding for. They got maybe GED, just basic. But if you want a further education, you can do it through the mail. Yeah.
Okay. So during this time, during the 16 years, did you have a lot of communication with your family? Did you see them very often?
Oh, yeah. They would, when I was in Arizona, they would come see me frequently, weekly sometimes. Even when I was shipped to different parts of the state, to Kingman, to Winslow, to Buckeye, my family was very supportive. And my parents went to Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
Colorado. Wow. The only place I didn't get a visit was in Indiana because that was pretty far.
So let's go through, like towards the end of you being in this prison. Was there fear when you knew that your time was like coming up where you were going to be able to leave? Was there fear of being back into normal society?
Terrified.
Really?
Wow.
Terrified. 47 years old, no job, $50, nowhere to go. I had to go back home as a grown man to mom's house. And
that ain't so bad. She cooks food and shit all the time.
Especially Mexican families, bro.
I just felt like a failure. All my friends were retiring from one job, starting a second one. They had homes, they had cars, and I just felt like I failed in every aspect of life. As a human being, as a man, as a father, as a son. I was still in a real bad place in my head. Yeah.
And do you think that caused you to continue to use more again?
Just not being ready to come home, and then all of a sudden, 2 a.m, I'm at a bus stop in Yuma on my way home. I was hungry and wanted a soda. I didn't even know how to use a debit card.
2 a.m?
Yeah, that's when they dropped us off because the bus was at 4.
Wow.
So it was a culture shock. I didn't know how to use a phone. I didn't know how to use a debit card, and I was embarrassed. I just didn't know what to do.
I remember having that conversation with your niece when I knew you were getting out. I'm like, dude, you got to make sure you show them how to use this and how to use that or whatever. Like, I was excited for you from my perspective of like that's cool. He's coming home. He gets to see, little Ray gets to see the family again. But to put myself into your perspective and to see like, holy shit, the world has moved on for 16
right.
years. And
Fear that sits there, right?
Yep.
wow.
And to this day, he still carries a flip phone.
He's got the jitterbug
Yeah.
with the big ass numbers on it still. Man. So, dude, that's so 2 a.m. Who did somebody pick you up when you came? Like, or like, how did that work?
Greyhound
Greyhound
picked me up. Yeah.
picked you up. And then you went back to, did you go back to your mom's house at this time?
Yeah, I was still on parole, and you know, I did get a CDL. You know, I can get jobs. I just didn't know how to keep them. And I got a CDL, worked for a construction company, and my problem was I was used to making 35 cents an hour in prison, and now, you know, I'm making better money with that CDL, and I didn't know how to handle. I still hadn't addressed the trauma as a child, so all this money in my pocket, I thought I could just use a little bit of drugs while I moved on with life, and I found out that I could not.
Okay. And I think this is a very important thing to talk about just because it allows the listeners to be able to really understand you in, you know, not to get too detailed, but I know in prison you were you're a pretty big dude. Like you were well known. So you had a lot of connections with whatever you wanted, pretty much.
I did. You know, just like out here, I gravitated to where the power was. And that was the crowd to be with, you know.
Yeah.
And it just led to easier access to drugs, even in prison.
Yeah.
Trying to beat the system all the time. And when I went into prison, it was mostly alcohol and cocaine. And when I came home from prison, it was heroin and meth.
Man.
So I went from bad to worse.
Okay. And you know, when you came out, how long did it take for you to start feeling comfortable with being out?
I would say a few months. You know, I would find myself still going into, you know, a room at my mom's house by 9 o'clock. You know, that was count time in prison, you know.
Wow.
And I would just like be stuck in this routine that I'm actually free now. I don't have to be in that room. I can go outside.
And what year did you get out of prison again?
February of 2016.
2016. All right. So a few months it took you to reacclimate yourself back to that. And then when did you find yourself getting back in trouble with the parole officer, all that stuff?
So
soon after you got out, or did it take a little while?
It was towards the end of 16 years flat sentence and 2.5 years of parole.
Mm-hmm.
So the last 3 months of parole is when I started getting a little cocky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got money. I'm gonna be off parole, and I can buy a little bit of drugs and portion it out for my week. I'm in control of this. And like I said, towards the end, I got too complacent, and I found out really fast that I had no control of anything.
And when did your parole officer bring you into a treatment center? What was your first treatment?
So I ended up going on another like a meth and heroin run, and I got into another drug-induced psychosis. I got arrested here in Tucson again with possession, paraphernalia, and so I went through the court system again. And
What year was that?
it was 2017, I believe, 18.
18?
And you know, the judge, you know, he's like, when you do dope, bad things happen.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you one chance at probation, and if you fail, you're going home for 4 more years. And home was prison because that's where I spent a lot of time. So I was still trying to beat the system, trying to beat the UAs, trying to time, you know, the PO when he was going to call, and I couldn't. So the last conversation I had with my surveillance officer and probation officer was, you check yourself into treatment by this Friday, or Monday I'm going to cuff you up, and I'm going to process you back in.
So did you go in someplace on a Friday?
So, yeah, I came to ARC. To ARC. And, you know, it took a couple of times. I was employed, then I got fired, so my insurance failed, and I had to go get on access. But I got a little taste of being clean here for those couple of weeks, and that's what I wanted. I just didn't know how to get there, so I kept coming back. I went and got on access, and finally came back and went through the treatment and completed the program.
Do you see how everything you've gone through in your past was leading to where you are right now?
I do now.
I'm talking about when you first got to treatment.
Yep.
Everything you went through was leading you to where you needed to be so that you can save others.
Thank you.
And not even, I mean, another thing I wanted to touch on just briefly before we jump right back in, but there was another situation that happened right, like I don't even know when did Paula pass? That was like, in what year was that?
So that was That was 1 year before my release, and that was devastating also because here we are for 15 years making plans and, I can't wait till you come home and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then I get a phone call that she had overdosed. And
This is your sister, correct?
yes.
Okay.
And
Older, younger?
she was 4 years older, but we were real close because of the age.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And, that was my little road dog, my partner in crime, and just getting that news and then being asked while I'm in prison over the phone for my input on whether we should disconnect her from life support. That was really, really hard.
Wow.
And there I go again after that decision. I actually overdosed in prison right after that on meth again. I got psychotic and I came home with a real bad chip from that loss,
Yeah. And the only reason why I wanted to bring that up was because, a part of the power of your testimony is when you have like clients and people come up to you or like, I know at least for me, they're like, bro, you don't know what the fuck I've been through. I've been locked up and I've done this and my mom did this and I lost that and whatever. And it's like I just point at Ray, like, bro, don't give me any excuses. Like my uncle beat through that shit. Don't give me excuses, So it's like I want people to understand and try and put themselves in your shoes and see where you were at mentally coming home. We had all these plans. I remember talking to my aunt, so excited for you to come. You know what I mean? And to think like here you coming out and you're having to experience life like this, and you don't even have that. That buffer, that road dog that could at least help you come back into that community again. Like. Just going through it, man. Going through it.
And I think also coming home and seeing my mom. That's who I came home with. I mean, the loss of my sister just completely devastated her. Mm-hmm. And just to come to that broken house and see what the effects were on my mother also, who was struggling with pain pills and overusing them. And it just, it really discouraged me at the time. I was like, wow. It's what I came home to,
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I started my use all over again. Yeah.
Okay. So when you first came into ARC, I don't remember seeing you the first time. And then you ended up, did you get kicked out? Is that what happened?
I came 3 times. The first time, like I said, I just don't think I was ready. They weren't sure if they were going to allow me in residential or not. So I'll just leave from detox.
Yeah.
But then I came back. And then finally, like I said, I don't think it was the ultimatum of probation because I didn't care going back to prison or not. That really didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was just to be, just to live clean. I wanted to live clean. I just didn't know how. And the couple of weeks that I did spend here and spend time with the people that were here, they had just an amazing group of people that were welcoming, that didn't judge me based on crimes, they said, you have a drug problem. Come in, we can help you.
Yeah.
So I was drawn to that, that compassion,
When you were in here the last time, is that when you roomed with my buddy Zane?
Yes, it was.
So you said 3 times this happened?
The Vanilla Gorilla.
The Vanilla Gorilla. Yeah. 3 times.
The reason why I asked that, because you just took me back to the Bible where Jesus even told Apostle Peter, you know what? The devil's asked to sift you, and you're going to deny me 3 times. But when you get back, I want you to strengthen your brothers and sisters. And guess what you did when you got back at that 3rd time?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're doing to this day.
Yeah. And like I said, I always wanted to live better. I just didn't know how. And that's why I'm so grateful to this place and dedicated. And
That's
I just
awesome.
want to be that for somebody else.
Absolutely. I'm hearing that daily from clients.
So coming back to when you were in residential this time, this is when you and I started establishing a relationship, and seeing that growth in you from the moment that you and I connected, man, like that, I guess it must've been that 3rd time you were here, seeing you in the residential, there was a change. I mean, I've known this version of Ray as long as I can remember. Like I was too young back then. So I've always seen this version of you, this hustler, this dude who just handles his business, Do you remember the moment, like when that switch flipped where you decided like, I don't want to do this anymore? Was there a class you were in?
It was basically the therapist, like I said, the trauma, they had professionals here that knew how to address that. They knew how to, I had never spoken of it.
Yeah.
So it was just something that was tormenting me from childhood till, and when I got here, I didn't care who listened. I didn't care what you thought of me. I just didn't care. I needed to get this off my chest. Mm-hmm. And there was people in that room willing to listen. Zane, he was one of them. In fact, he was in tears,
Wow.
Yep.
And
He's a big baby.
I just had to let it all out, and I think that's when the switch flipped. And at the time, the therapists and the administration that were here, they actually said, "So what are you going to do about it?" And I didn't share this last time, but they allowed me to call Pima County cold case detectives and report what I had seen as a child in the alleys and with the people and all that. And they actually felt that I had enough information for them to reopen a 32-year-old homicide investigation. So
Wow.
I sat with some detectives upstairs, and like I said, it was allowed. And so I don't know where they're at in the investigation. I just know that I was able to take that burden off my chest.
Yeah,
And that all happened here on this property. So
carrying
Wow.
around that forever.
right.
And you get to unload that. It's like, man, a great feeling, right?
Great feeling. And then processing it afterwards, like I said, with the people that were working here at the time was that was like the big flip of the switch, because I didn't have nightmares anymore. I was able to sleep. I was still going through some of the shakiness of using drugs so long and stopping, but they also had all these different aspects to the recovery, the music, the Tony Red House experience, the meditation, the yoga, all these different things that I think are part of the total package that's offered here.
Yeah, man. One of the things that you say, and I can't help but feel like this is a huge thing too, is the fact that you said you didn't care what anyone thinks. I see so many of these young kids that come through and they're so worried about how they dress and how they smell and the opposite sex and all of this bullshit. It's just bullshit, bro. That's what it is. And to be able to not care and it allows you to really open up and to really allow for that healing to take place in the first place.
Right.
And that's so awesome that you had that experience here, that you were able to let go and to really just allow the therapist to work their magic.
To be vulnerable too, especially coming from what Ray had to go through his whole life and endure. And for him to come in and finally just say, you know what, I don't care. I'll be 100% transparent, vulnerable. It's like being, going to the high school lunch at 12 and being butt naked on a picnic table in front of everybody. Basically, it takes a lot to do that, but to be able to get through what you had to get through, you had to get to that point, right?
And it was hard because, in prison, you become real defiant to authority, to anybody telling you anything. And when I walked in this door here, I was begging for help. And I had to, be, like Matt says, vulnerable, open-minded, willing. Yeah. And I think I was that when I was here as a client. I was, erasing answers, changing them. I was doing homework in my room when other people were playing cards. I was just focused on a better ending of my life than the beginning.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I could honestly say, dude, I think your transformation in your life is one of the major reasons why I stayed here for so long too, was because like that was such a beautiful thing for me to see. Going back to like earlier, when people had all of these things that they wanted to throw out, all of these judgments, you're looking at it from both sides. It's like you can say whatever you want about this person here, but I see this person every single day, and I see this transformation. So to be able to see that, man, it really made me grateful to God that he was able to make those changes. And it's very possible for a person to change their life. You know what I mean? Like that was my first real honest to God example of somebody being able to not have any excuses and to really make a change. Dude, that most people, I don't know if it's fear, I don't know what it is, but you were able to flip that switch, man. And that stuck with me.
Yeah. Most people don't have the drive or the ability or the willingness to make those changes, right? We all want to.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and say all the time, I just want to be a better person. I want to do this. But when it comes time to the action part, most people can't. And that's why it continues. Right.
Thanks for using that word transformation, because I have a saying that transparency leads to
transformation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And then, being honest about those parts of my life was hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy. It was hard because you're afraid of stigmas and judgments. And like I said, when I walked in that door, I did not care what anybody thought. I was going to listen to the people here because, I read reviews, success. And I said, I want to be that guy, not this guy. So
when you get to that point, it's such a good feeling when you don't care anymore. And I don't mean that in a bad way. when I'm saying, and I know what Ray's saying, not caring, it doesn't mean he doesn't care about things. It's just, I don't care about what these people think about
Yeah.
my
Right.
past, whatever. I know what type of person I'm supposed to be and I want to be. So I don't care what they think. And when you get to that place, there's nothing better than being there because
Yeah.
nothing phases you.
And that's where I'm at now. You either accept me or you don't. You know, I'm okay with
Cut
either.
out
Yeah.
those outside voices. When you quit caring about what's going on the outside, you can truly take the time to work on the inside with just you and being ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Changing your life. I mean, dude, every single day. I mean, there's never been one thing that I've said to you that's ever gone like, you know, like you just kind of put it to the side. Like you've always been a high, like, not high because you're not, but you've always been like a highly, like motivated, bro. Like I just see that in you. You came through the program, you graduated, you went through IOP, and before you came on as an employee here, what were you doing? Were you working on your RSS? What was going on in your life at that time?
Yeah. So somebody suggested to me here that I get an RSS, and you know, maybe turn all that ugly into some positive, and I didn't know how to do that, you know. So I said, okay, I'll go get the RSS. I did work for a short time back at a home health agency.
Yeah.
But I think my passion more is substance abuse because of the things that I've gone through. I have more to share in that field. So I really, really wanted to come back and be a part of this team somehow.
Wow.
And how'd that happen? You came back and started what?
So I came back as a alumni coordinator, and I was doing a lot of like outreach and just you know, conversating with clients, and I was asked to do a group one day. And I think filling in and just being willing to just change gears and jump into something else, I think that actually helped because I started running groups. I started running groups in detox and residential, and I covered some in IOP. And, you know, at that time, COVID was rampant. I was working, just plugging in where I could get in because that's what I really, really wanted to do.
Man, and not even to going, even with COVID, you know, you lost somebody very special to you during that time as well, you know, and you, even through that, you pushed through.
Yeah. So I come to the program, graduate, I'm clean, and COVID hits, 2000. You know, my whole house is hit. My stepdad, my mother, my son, myself. Everybody goes to the hospital that day except me. And the reason being is because somebody had to be home to get a phone call from the hospital.
Yeah.
And 2 days later, I got a call that my mom had passed away from COVID complications, and then my son would stay in a coma for the next 32 days.
There was something, if you don't mind sharing, that I remember you said was the last thing that your mom had said to you that sticks with you.
So a lot of people, you know, will ask me now, you know, because they knew how bad I was in my addiction. How do you, Ray, how do you stay clean? And I have to be honest and share with them that, you know, my mom waited so many years just to see me not struggle with, you know, from the alcohol, the cocaine, the heroin in prison. You know, she knew. I mean, moms know.
Yeah.
And so that night when I actually had to place her on the gurney, and she was fighting me, but I saw a look of peace in her eyes, and she actually said, "Look at you taking care of the family now." So that was, you know, that's all she ever wanted was for me to take care of family and to be a responsible adult. And so when people ask me that question, you know, how do you stay clean? I just have to tell them, you know, I won't take that image that my mother had of me at that last time. I won't take that away from her.
Awesome. And listeners are listening right now and they're thinking this, Ray, how's your son doing?
My son came out of his coma, and he's got a lot of medical complications now. You know, he still has to go weekly appointments that I get to take him now because now, like I said, I'm clean, I'm sober. I know how to balance work, family, and he has a lot of medical issues, but we just do the best we can, and we're glad that we're both alive today.
Thank you for being that dad.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about Ray too is that Ray is always on the go, always doing for others, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he has a son that he has to take care of. He has a grandson he takes care of. He has a special needs daughter that needs 24/7 care, you know, his fiance. Like, I mean, this guy, like, always. And he never bitches and he never complains. You know, every now and then out there smoking, you can tell he wants to, but he don't. And who wouldn't? You know, he has a lot of stuff that he puts on himself and he does for others so much. Like there's really not another person that I know that's like Ray.
Yeah.
You know,
Me neither, man.
Thank you.
I agree with that, man.
Dude, I mean, what an honor to have you on here, bro. Like, there's just so many things like that you've experienced in your life that, you know, for anybody listening who feels like they're in that position, you know, and you've continued to battle through it and you've hammered down and you've done what you needed to do. So, you know, for anybody who's listening right now, any, you know, kids that are probably in the prison system or in their active addiction, you know, is there advice that you could give them, you know, thinking of yourself in that position when you were?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still receive mail from people that they maybe came here once or not, but word of mouth, they hear. And I've gotten letters recently of people that, hey, how can I do this? So I'm pretty active in getting them some RSS material. And I mean, whoever's asking for help, I'm no one to say no. I can't help you. You know, I'll do whatever I can to ship them some material or just communicate with them. And
he's that beacon of hope.
Yeah.
That's what he is.
Yeah. In fact, I need to ask you for some advice because this week I'll be speaking to the Pima Reentry Center. So can you give me some advice on what I can share?
What is the Pima Reentry Center?
That's from the jails.
Reentry into population.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're allowing many of them to get into treatment and stuff like that.
Wow, that's great.
yeah, just tell them not to be stubborn like me, to come in with an open heart, open mind, and be willing, to change.
Awesome.
And when people sit here and gripe and complain, and I always have to reiterate, you came here to change. You have to change everything,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
not just pick up that piece of dope. You have to change from the inside and figure out what was going on inside. So just willingness. If you're going to come here, put 100% effort into being the person that you want to be.
All I tell people is like, put 50% of your, what you used to put into using your drugs.
Exactly.
Because I'd go 200%,
Right.
Jeez.
So put in 100% just in making these positive changes, right? I mean, stories of sitting there waiting, drug man, hey, I'll be there in a half hour. 10 hours goes by, you're still waiting. I mean, you're putting in work,
Yeah.
waiting for your stuff.
A lot of effort right there.
Yeah.
And it's, it's not easy being clean and sober either every day because you have shit happen.
Mhm.
Life continues, whether you're using or you're not, right? But when you're sober, you can handle those situations different.
Yeah.
You can make better choices and decisions because that's what life is based on decisions.
Yeah.
Every single day you wake up and you got to make better decisions than you did yesterday.
Maybe you can give some brothers some more advice too, because I hang out with a lot of the ILP clients even to this day. And a lot of them are saying, Vance, I'm getting reached out to by people I used to use with. So what do I need to tell them? So let me get Ray's opinion so I can know what to tell
Get a
them.
new number is what I'd say.
Right.
Too.
Mhm.
3 basic things.
Thank you, because that's one of the things I did say.
Yeah.
People, places, and things. Stuff that we teach here at ARC. If you're going to associate with the same people, you're going to do the same things. I don't do Facebook. I don't do any social media.
Wow.
I limit where I go. I like to play pool. I won't set foot in a bar because I know that that's risky for me.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people out there get too confident and cocky, and they start associating with some friends. I've learned how to cut people off, even
Yeah.
people I love.
Right.
You
And
have
this is
to.
biblical. It says to come out from among them.
Yeah.
So
You
thank you
have
for validating that.
Well, my pops always says, and I always say this, you are who you hang around. I never used to understand that.
Wow.
It's like, you want to be a piece of shit, hang around pieces of shit. You want to be a good person, find the winners and hang around those people that you see that do
Yeah.
what they say, right? Because a lot of people will say a lot of talk, but they a lot of people will say, a lot of good things, and then you'll see them when no one's watching doing these dirty, ugly things.
Yeah.
Right. So just, you gotta be specific in who you want to hang around,
Wow.
Okay.
and stick to it.
Yeah.
I've driven by friends that are still using on the street, trying to flag me down and stop me. Breaks my heart to drive past them, but that's what I have to do today.
Yeah.
I just can't. I protect my sobriety with everything.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
And it's amazing, like, to see that it's almost like you're on a mission now. Like before, you're just living life, you're just experiencing life. But then when that switch flips, it's almost like, you're looking at all your friends who had these houses and had all these cars and they're successful. but God had a different plan for you. And he, you know, and you had to go through all of the things that you went through because, I mean, the amount, the hustle that you have, the way that you push, the way that you work, like who else could he give that to? Who else would be able to take all of that and see that it's not, you know, this doesn't make me me. Like I am who I am now and I'm going to change other people's lives. Like it's almost like you're on a mission now.
But what's the definition of successful? Because houses, cars, money, all that material shit is nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Like successful is changing people's lives, being a good influence, you know, those types of things that Ray does.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who's to say what's normal? It's the same kind of like argument, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's happening now. You know, I come to do this every day, relentless.
Yep.
And I finally, after, you know, I'm 54 years old, paid off of my first vehicle ever. And maybe I'll buy a house next year, you know. So things are coming into play, but that's not what important, like Matt says, you know.
And what Matt said too is biblical because it says that true riches are saving lives and souls.
yeah.
Yep. And even if it's one person, mission accomplished.
Yes.
Yep.
That's great. Real quick, just a little bit of just a little advice, just to kind of throw out to what you said about the changing the phone numbers thing. Make sure you tell clients to change the Google accounts because every phone number, Android or Apple or whatever, is connected to an email account. So you may change your number, but if you have contacts of people that you've saved, it'll sync to a Google account, and every time you turn on that phone or restart it, all of those contacts will come back.
Thanks for educating me because when I got clean 10 years ago, all I had to do was just delete my Facebook page, like you said, and start a new
Oh
one.
yeah, no.
You can also go in there and delete contacts, or you can block contacts.
Okay.
You know, stuff like that. But then you can always go back in and unblock them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's like, hey, you just need to be a grown up and make the decision that, hey, I'm not going to have any contact. I'm going to block this person. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And it doesn't have, you don't have to promise yourself for the rest of your life. You just wake up that morning and say, I'm not going to do this today.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit of a better outlook than going, geez, the rest of my life, I'm not going to be able to have fun. What is fun? But, right, it's just for 24 hours what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And limit it to that.
Mm-hmm.
What's that, Michaela?
Oh, I was just agreeing
there?
with you. I think
Michaela,
yeah,
you there?
I think-
Hello,
Hello.
Michaela. Can you
Hello?
hear us? Michaela,
Yes.
are you there? Michaela.
We can hear you, Michaela.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Michaela, he's messing with you.
I'm already texting Buddha, like, wait, I can hear you guys. No, but I agree with you. Now I totally lost my train of thought.
Oh,
But I
man.
agree with you. Sometimes it's easier to look at just the next moment than looking, you know, way too far in advance. You know, just focus on one small change and then, you know, implement the next to continue supporting yourself.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And like Matt said, you know, just surrounding yourself with different people. I've known Matt since my first day of employment here. It's the first day I met him. You know, we've had many long, deep discussions, conversations, and he's guided me and molded me into the position I have now.
No,
with
I didn't mold you into shit. See, here he
IOP.
goes again. He's done it all himself. And these talks and stuff are just, you know, it's just experiences. You've molded yourself into the person you are, and you better give yourself credit for that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I just have to say this, you know, openly in front of everybody is thank you for everything you've allowed me to do here and accomplish so far.
Well, you do a great job, Ray, and we appreciate you here, and everybody does. There's always going to be those people that don't like you. Who cares,
Who cares?
right? Everybody can't like you. I don't like everybody.
Oh yeah. Hey man, but you know what, man? I'm very, very proud of you. Very proud of you. And I mean, you continue to keep changing lives.
Thank you so much, Ray.
Yeah,
At
dude.
54? You're 54?
I am.
Oof.
You don't look a day over
Nope.
55, bro.
Yeah.
I was going to say 45.
45. Oh, I wanted to also say too, and I can cut this out if you want, but I told you earlier, and I just wanted to say this so people, not even so people can know, but you guys can know. One of the investigators on the case that when all this stuff happened with Ray was another family member of ours.
Correct.
And you know, the other day they were having a family reunion. My mom went, and she told me that he asked about Ray. Does anybody know how Ray's doing? You know, because I mean, ever since Ray, even before he got locked up, I don't think you've seen him, right?
Not since he arrested me that night. No.
Yeah. Was he the one who arrested you that
He
night?
was one of them, yeah.
Wow. And you know, my mom was like, hey, he's doing fantastic. He's working at this place. He's changing people's lives every day. And she said that his face lit up and that he was like, wow, I cannot, but that's incredible. That's incredible. So I wanted to give a shout out to him and also another shout out to you, Ray. Just kind of, I think it's cool to see how things change like that.
Yeah, they absolutely changed, because even my probation officer, I've gone to speak for DTAP graduations for him and been involved in all these things since I started working here, and it's it's humbling. It's humbling that someone from a very system that I belong to would ask me to come and share to the graduating class.
Yeah. But no, ladies and gentlemen, real quick, man, please give a huge round of applause to Ray just one more time for his strength and for everything that you do. This being the 50th episode, I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit and ask all of the co-hosts the questions. What is something that you've learned? Vance, I'm going to start with you, brother. What is something that you have learned in the past year of doing this? Like, we're listening to these conversations and the people that we have coming in here.
Interesting you said that, because that's the reason why sometimes I'm really quiet, because I'm actually learning a lot from people when they share their testimony.
Yeah.
Because I want the people that are listening to hear what that person has to say more than what Vance has to say.
Yeah.
But I'm really growing knowing that everybody has a different role here at the ARC.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful, man. And Matt, what about yourself, man?
For me, over the past year, it's just been everybody's roads that they've taken. It all leads us to the same place, right? And you're on the shitty back roads, dirt roads, no lights and all that. You get led to this crappy swamp where you just feel stuck. You're on these lighted highways, on these really good paved roads and stuff. You get to this spot, right, where everybody's like wanting to do good. You know what I mean? And everybody... Bad roads or good roads, right? We're all like the same, no matter what, our background is, what color we are, what sex we are, any of that, right? Everybody has their own things they have to go through. It might not be what this person went through, but it's the same to them as it was to this person, right? These trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
And just getting to know people and having a good time when I come in here. I like to laugh and make light and have fun. And I think work has to be that same way. You got to enjoy coming and doing this. And it's always a pleasure. I love the co-hosts, love Vance. I'm glad that, we've brought in Vance and got him, him to be a part of our team. And he does so much for our clients, and everybody here knows him. And Buddha, yourself, I see people in and out of your office all day as well. And Michaela, she goes above and beyond. And it's just, and Ray, I'm not going to continue to float Ray's boat because I already did. It's just
One
great.
more time.
I just know that everything gets accomplished, everything gets taken care of, and we're all here to do a bigger purpose than ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just good to be a part of something like that.
That's right.
And it makes me feel like a better person being a part of, and I want to be a part of it. Right.
Heck yeah.
So,
amen.
Awesome.
I encourage a lot of clients to do the ARCast.
Yeah.
Every for the last year, everybody that comes across, hey, schedule an appointment. And then after they do it, I don't know if you get this feedback, but they always come to me and like, hey, I got to do that, man. That was great. And it's such a self-esteem booster and a confidence booster. And knowing that what they experienced and had to share, somebody else is going to listen to it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's just all we need to do. We need to share something. And a lot of the people that have done this are grateful because it's boosted their self-esteem.
Yeah.
and their
That's
confidence.
amazing. That's amazing. And Michaela, what about yourself?
I would say one of the things that I've learned that's just been like a consistent theme to each story is change is possible if you want it bad enough. And there are people at the ARC that you can relate to that will help you get there. No matter where you're at, you're welcome.
Awesome.
how about yourself, Buddha?
For me, ARC, even going back before this, here at ARC, shout out to Mike and everyone involved, you guys have allowed me to grow as a person, with like the physical activity groups and things like that. And when this initially started, it was at a point in my life where I didn't think I would ever touch an audio engineering board again or anything like that. It just kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, And this experience, man, it makes me feel for the first time in my life that I'm on a journey to like, it's really hard to explain, but it feels like this is what I was meant to do, was to be able to come here and to, if it's allow people to speak their testimony and to open up. Because if there's one thing that I've learned, a lot of people are afraid to open up about things that they've experienced because they feel like they're alone in it, you know, especially when you're talking about like molestations and a lot of the trauma.
Yep.
People are embarrassed to talk about that because, you know, no one else has ever experienced this. How are they going to look at me? So to have people come in here and say, dude, you guys have a peaceful environment, and I felt so comfortable, and Matt's hilarious, and Vance is so faithful, he knows scriptures, and, you know, Michaela, and then just talking about everyone that's here, it just makes my heart happy, and I'm grateful and thankful for this place, and thankful to Matt for being an incredible boss, and just the experiences, having Vance right next door. If I have any issues, if I need someone to pray for me, knock on the door and he's quick to answer. And,
Always.
and same for you, you know, Ray. And it's cool, man. It feels like a real family. I know a lot of people try and separate work and family, but to me, this is like a real family, and I'm very grateful.
Don't start calling me Unc.
I'm gonna call you sir just to piss you off.
My head is not that size.
Way too big of a size, bro.
So that's interesting. You mentioned that family, because that's one of the things, you know, in the how many years have I worked here, man? 4, 5?
4.
Going on 5.
Dang.
So, you know, and it's a blessing. You know, I spent 16 years of holidays in a cage. So people, you know, tend to ask me, well, how come you just don't have somebody work on the holiday? You can have somebody work, and you should be home with your family. And my response is always the same. I am home with my family.
Wow.
You know, I split my time. You know, I get my quality time with my family at home, but I also get my quality time with my people here. And it makes them feel really good, you know, that we're here spending time with them on different holidays, yeah. Because they can be rough. Yeah.
That's fantastic, man. You know, for all the listeners out there, for all the loyal ones that have been there for the last 50 episodes, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And please, if you hear Ray's story or any of the stories that we've brought onto the ARCast, and you feel like this could help somebody in their journey of sobriety and becoming a better person, please share it with them. If you guys are interested in coming on, you know, fill out the forms on the social media and everything. We'll get you on here to share your testimony. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your week, and we will see you next week. God bless.
Thanks for having me, Buddha.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray.
Vance, Matt.
Thanks, Michaela.
Thank you.
You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Michaela, you there? See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Bye, guys.
What's going on, everybody? This is Buddha from the ARCast, and I just wanted to thank you for checking out this week's episode. It means a lot, and if you could share it with a friend or a loved one, somebody in need in recovery, or maybe somebody who just needs that little bit of extra positivity in their life, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you would like to join us here on the ARCast, either in the studio live or online, hit us up. The links are down in the show notes of this episode, and on there, you can find direct links to our main website here at Americas Rehab Campus and all of our social media platforms. Follow us. We keep the posts positive and motivational, focused on recovery, health, and wellness. As you know, in this modern day and age, we need as much love as possible, y'all. And as always, if you or somebody you know is in need of substance abuse treatment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're open 24 hours a day, and our direct phone number is 1-833-272-7342. Once again, that phone number is 1-833-272-7342. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love and God bless. Peace.